You see those question marks towards the end of our intro video, and they won't be question marks for long. What's up, everybody? It is Trey and BK live on Texas Sports Unfiltered. Today is Wednesday, August 30th, 2023. We are 3 days away from Texas Longhorn game day as the Horns get set to open up the 2023 season against the Rice Owls this Saturday at DK. We'll be talking plenty of Texas football throughout today's show. Justin Wells, our old buddy from Inside Texas, is going to join us at 12:30. We'll get his thoughts on this weekend's game and also on the entirety of the Texas Longhorns season. We will hear from Quan Cosby. The Buck and I had the chance to speak with the legendary lifetime Longhorn yesterday morning. Trey and I are going to play some of our favorite cuts from what Quan had to say yesterday. We'll have Where Are We At in Society at the end of the show. We are locked and loaded on a Wednesday. Trey, what's going on, brother?
Not a lot, and I'm glad you mentioned the question marks there and the countdown, because that's why I was smiling so big. I feel like I saw it yesterday. It just didn't register. It didn't quite hit like it did today, BK, but I have a pretty good idea of what's coming down the pike, and I think people will be very excited to hear some additions in the not-so-distant future.
Yes, we are going to make some announcements before the end of this week in hopes and expectations of rolling out our new lineup next Monday. Yeah, it's Labor Day. We don't care. We're going to be working. I'm an a-hole, all right? I'm the boss who makes his employees work on Labor Day. But I think everybody wants to work on Labor Day this year because, of course, it's the Monday following a Texas game, and it's the start of game week for Texas and Alabama. But, yeah, we've got more big additions coming to Texas Sports Unfiltered that we are super excited to tell you all about very, very soon.
DJ, it is entirely too early to ask a question like that. Rank your top 5 power bottoms, maybe later in the show, my friend.
Okay. Maybe later in the year, maybe later in the lifetime.
I'm just pushing that pebble down the road. We are not getting to that this show.
Oh, man. Well, we teased it this morning, Trey. We are giving away a pair of tickets to this Texas Rice game this weekend. And hopefully you were watching / listening to Bucky and BK this morning, because that was how you entered our giveaway. You had to subscribe to the channel, you had to like the video, and you had to comment to be entered for your chance to win. And I know we don't have a ton of people in the room now, so we'll announce this guy's name a couple of different times just to make sure that he is aware that he is our winner of our first giveaway on this channel. But congratulations to Glenn Vargas.
All right.
Our winner of the Texas Rice ticket giveaway. Glenn, please reach out to me. I will try to reach out to you on YouTube, so make sure you're checking your YouTube DMs. If I find you on Twitter, I will try to reach out to you there. We will make sure we get in contact with you so we can get your email and send you those tickets. But congrats to Glenn Vargas, our winner. And, you know, Trey, his comment, so once again, you had to enter a comment to enter this giveaway. The comment that Glenn Vargas left was, "Randomize D's nuts. Y'all are the man." And when I saw that, when I went to random.com and randomized to pick a winner, I saw that comment that Glenn left, and I thought about hitting the randomize button again so somebody else would win, but I decided not to. Congrats to Randomize D's nuts, Glenn Vargas, on taking home that pair of tickets.
I didn't realize that YouTube had DMs, BK, but I guess considering the message, it was fitting that you told him to slip your tube into your BK's DMs. Is that what you said?
I don't think that's what I said at all. I think you're the only person in the world who heard anything close to that. Slip your tube into what now?
His DMs?
No.
He's going to slip his tube into your DMs?
I'm good on that.
Okay.
Even though I'm not quite sure what that means. I think I'm confused. All right. Thanks to Centex Tickets, by the way. Support them. If you didn't win, get tickets to this Saturday's game, to every Longhorn game all season long at centextickets.com. Trey, one of the newest members of the Big 12 Conference is the University of Houston. And Dana Holgorsen, who, of course, was the coach at West Virginia for a number of years, is now the coach at the University of Houston. He's been there for 4 or 5 years now. I don't think I'm breaking any news to anybody, but obviously this is the first time in a while the Longhorns and Cougars are in the same conference. And obviously these two teams will play down in H-Town on October 21st. And Dana Holgorsen did his weekly radio show down in Houston yesterday. And I guess a Cougar fan asked him a question about Texas and Texas A&M departing from the Big 12 to the SEC. That feels weird to lump the two schools together, considering they left for the SEC like 15 years apart. But anyway, somebody asked a question about Texas and A&M leaving the Big 12 and whether or not that made the Big 12 a little bit less desirable. Dana Holgorsen said, quote, "Screw them. They can go wherever they want. They don't want us, and we don't want them," end quote. So add Dana Holgorsen, Trey, to the list of people who are publicly excited about Texas bolting for the Southeastern Conference.
It's a sentiment that's shared across the conference at this point, BK. Even if Texas Tech people are still trying to set up an annual game between the Longhorns and Red Raiders, there is no love lost between these different sides. And that was part of the point with Brett Yormark's comments last week and why I wasn't as incensed as pretty much every other Longhorn fan was with what I heard out of Brett Yormark under normal circumstances. And even if that was said at Big 12 Media Days, I think it would have been a little bit differently. But because he was speaking to a fan base that will still be a part of the conference after this upcoming season, I understand why he did it for a variety of reasons. And Dana Holgorsen now echoes that sentiment. By the way, it's great, even if for a year, to have Big 12 Phil Collins back in the fold. That's what Dana Holgorsen is. I spoke with him at Big 12 Media Days this year and got to ask literally one of the favorite questions I've ever asked anybody. And that was at the end of my chat with Dana. It was a great conversation, by the way. Talk about his Cougars football team coming back to the Big 12, the loss of Coach Leach, but the fact that he will be there for Texas Tech honoring Coach Leach this season. Houston is going to be in Lubbock that day, and so that should be a really special moment. But I ended the interview by asking Dana if he does, in fact, feel it coming in the air tonight. And he gave a good response, too. So you can go check that out on the Night Talker podcast page.
You can check this picture out of Dana Holgorsen's hair right now. Maybe he should focus a little bit more on getting that thing figured out than bashing Texas and Texas A&M.
Oh, he recognizes the hair as a problem. That was part of his answer when I asked him the Phil Collins question. He looks a little bit like Big Ernie McCracken right there from Kingpin, but the hair is just going everywhere as Big Ernie is bowling his way to another title.
I'm just trying to figure out what exactly Dana Holgorsen was going for with that look. Now, that picture is a few years old. That's from his time in Morgantown, but it's not that much better than this picture right now in 2023.
Well, it looks like, if I had to guess, BK, that the wind had blown I don't know what you even call that on top of his head, the comb over, the comb back, just kind of keep it as messy as possible to hide how bald it is on top. It looks like the wind had blown it straight up, and he was trying to put the hair back closer to his head.
Yeah, what do you call that hairstyle? It's like a balding comb over / mullet. Like in recent years, he's actually let the back grow out a little bit more, so you don't have the full luscious Gundy mullet on the noggin of Dana Holgorsen, but you do kind of have a little party in the back going on these days.
Yeah, the ballet, I think, is what you call it.
The bald mullet?
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, and Dana Holgorsen also said that Texas and Texas A&M are the reason why Houston didn't get the invite to the Big 12 Conference in years past, which there might be some truth to that, right? Like, I don't think it was only Texas and Texas A&M that didn't want Houston in the Big 12. I think there were plenty of other Big 12 schools who were against the Cougars joining the league in years past. But, I don't think Texas or Texas A&M were bending over backwards at any point to try to bring UH into the conference.
Yeah, I mean, look, Houston is a commuter school. They've got a fairly large student base, but there are a lot of people who travel from all over the greater Houston area to go to the U of H, and they've had very successful years in the last 10 plus now in football, obviously basketball too. But there was no need for Texas, for Oklahoma for that matter, or anybody else in the conference to fight to get another state of Texas school into the mix, because that just adds a level of complexity to your ability to try and dominate this state, right?
Yeah.
Like, is that maybe dodging the competition just a little bit? Yeah, it probably is. But there was no need to add U of H at that time. Like, even when the Big 12 added them last year or announced that they were one of the 4 schools who would be a part of the conference beginning this season, that was very much a meh moment. Like, you kind of understood BYU because they do have a national presence, and I guess you get going elsewhere, going into Florida, and then up to grab the Cincinnati Bearcats too, especially because they've been good at football in these last few years. But Houston was the one I was most indifferent on. And honestly, like, considering the 8 additions to this point, Houston maybe next to UCF, because UCF, I know they've had some successes in football recently, but they're really still trying to build that athletics department in school up. U of H is on the bottom in terms of power ranking, just how valuable each school is to the conference now.
Yeah, look, I think Houston has the potential to be a great program moving forward. I really do. And I'm with you. I think the reason why Houston has been left out of the Big 12 for as long as it has is twofold, right? Number one, Houston just didn't bring enough to where it was like, oh, we obviously have to have these guys in, because if we have the University of Houston in our conference, then we're all going to be making way more money. And the TV partners are going to want to open up the pocketbooks because we've got U of H in there. No, that's just not true. And then, yeah, I think part of it is a competitive advantage thing. I mean, Houston is one of the most talent-rich areas in the country for football, for basketball, for baseball, for volleyball, for any sport. So, yeah, it's a big deal for a lot of these kids to play close to home. And, Houston is close to home for a lot of these kids. So I think, yeah, there was a little bit of fear that, hey, maybe if Houston's in a big-time conference, they are going to find a way to kind of arise and be a big-time force in college sports. I think maybe that was a part of it as well. But yeah, it is pretty funny that Dana Holgorsen is like, screw them, talking trash about Texas, when the only reason Houston got the invite to the Big 12 in the first place is because Texas left. Like, you're welcome. You're about to make a lot more money now. And Dana, I love Dana, by the way. Dana, I got to interact with him a lot during my 2 years in Houston. He's a great dude. He's freaking hilarious. He would listen to my show. He'd call into the show. Like, great guy. I love Dana. But dude, remember that you got hired, number one, with the expectation of moving to the Big 12. And once the announcement was made that the Cougars were going to the Big 12, you got a massive extension and a huge pay raise. And all of that is happening because of Texas. And I guess A&M, but really because of Texas making the decision to vote for the SEC. So I get it, man. It's the cool thing to do now. Dunk on Texas. It's always been the cool thing to do. But especially now when you're associated with the Big 12, you get an opportunity and more of a reason to dunk on the Longhorns than ever before. I get that it's low-hanging fruit right now, but come on, man. Like, the reason you're there, the reason you have that contract is because Texas is bolting for the SEC.
Yeah, Chris Bennett brings up an interesting comment here that I think is worth a bit of a discussion, BK, and that is Dana Holgorsen is now the most overrated coach in the Big 12, supplanting Matt Campbell. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think Matt Campbell, and by the way, I was at the forefront of the Matt Campbell bandwagon for several years, but in the last few years, you've seen a guy who is maybe underperforming as a coach, and also a guy who is way too quick to just completely lose his shit over what he perceives to be a bad call. And oftentimes it's not a bad call going against Iowa State either. So I think his willingness to go that unhinged, especially earlier in games, is doing a disservice to his team and maybe distracting them from taking care of the task at hand. Does that mean Dana Holgorsen is not a little bit overrated at this point? No, but I think Matt Campbell, because he is so beloved by the national media especially, probably still takes that title. Who do you think the most overrated coach in the conference is right now?
Well, my theory on Matt Campbell's anger is not that he's angry at the officials. He's angry at himself for not taking a better job when he had the chance, and he just unleashes that rage on the Zebras every single Saturday. That's why I think Matt Campbell has gotten so mad in recent years. Everybody told him to leave. Like, I respect the loyalty. You don't see a lot of it in college sports with coaches, with players, with anybody. I respect the guy for staying, but we were saying years ago that, like, no, dude, go take a better job. And he didn't do it. And now I don't know how many better jobs want him. So, yeah, Matt Campbell, maybe he's at that list. I still think he's a good coach, but you're right. The last couple of years haven't been great. I don't think Dana Holgorsen's rated that high anymore. I don't think a lot of people out there think Dana Holgorsen's a good coach in 2023. And you could maybe say he's still overrated even by saying that. But like Dana Holgorsen, maybe you could say during his time at West Virginia was overrated, but I don't think he's overrated at Houston anymore. Like, I think most people acknowledge that his seat, and I'm coming from Houston, so I talked about this a lot and saw this more than most people around the country did. But I think his seat is warming up a good amount. And there are already a bunch of Cougs fans who are ready to make the move to get rid of Dana Holgorsen after what happened last year. So I don't think he's overrated. Most overrated coach in the conference?
It's got to be Gundy, I guess, if not Matt Campbell, right?
I don't think it's Gundy because Gundy's done a tremendous job. They've also
underachieved when they have expectations, though. I don't know. It's an interesting conversation because there are a lot of coaches right now that seem like they're pretty darn good.
I think it's easy. I think it's Joey McGuire. Like, they had a solid first year. They did something they had never done in school history, and that's beat Texas and Oklahoma in the same season. I'm not going to sit here and say Joey McGuire doesn't deserve some love for what he was able to pull off in year one, but you got people picking Texas Tech to make it to the Big 12 championship game. You got people picking Texas Tech to win the Big 12 championship game. You've got the national media. And part of this, I'll credit Joey McGuire. Like, he's done a great job building up the hype train in Lubbock, and they love him out there. And I can't wait for him to pull a Chris Beard and go to a bigger school in 2 years, despite saying how much he loves Lubbock and how that's his home forever. That's going to be great for Texas Tech fans to have to deal with. But that, like, too many people are buying into Texas Tech right now after one decently solid year for Texas Tech. I can't even find, what did they win? 7 games? They went 8-5 last year. Like, a good first year, but dude, we're anointing that guy and that program, I think, way too early.
Yeah, I said it when he was hired, and Tech fans were a little bit disappointed. I actually think he is going to turn out to be an excellent hire for them. So I don't necessarily agree with you, but I also do see them getting a ton of love this year, and him putting a lot of that on himself, by the way. I mean, he told me and plenty of others at Big 12 Media Days that if they don't make it to the Big 12 championship game, it is a disappointing season in 2023. And he may be right about that. Look, I mean, I feel like they have a strong argument as one of the top 3 or 4 teams in this conference. And if you're in that category, then yeah, you should be in the hunt for that Big 12 championship game all the way to the end of the season. But go ahead.
My bad. McGuire's been there for 1 year, Trey, and there are already people having conversations about Texas Tech dominating the Big 12 once Texas and Oklahoma leave. Like, people are ready to anoint them as like the team that's going to run the conference starting in 2024. Like, I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm saying it sure as hell feels a little early to be giving them all of that love.
That is probably the best case for him being overrated right now, is because he has only been there for 1 year. But I also know the relationships he has across the state, and how good of a job he's already done in improving the roster. That's only going to continue to get better too. Now, is he going to be fighting for seconds on a lot of occasions going forward? Because there are 2 other schools in this conference and a third just north of that northern border that will be members of the SEC, one of the 2 most important conferences in college football here in the next couple of years. Yes, absolutely. But he has still done a phenomenal job of fostering relationships, and I think doing a good job of bringing in the right sorts of coaches to make sure that he's running the system that he wants and needs to run in order to have success on both sides of the ball too.
Yeah, he's done a great job. I will acknowledge that. And he's also done a great job of positioning himself to take over for Jimbo Fisher in a couple of years.
So that is a possibility. I agree with that. And then, oh gosh, there was something else that I just lost my train of thought there. I apologize. It's totally out of mind now, BK, unfortunately. Oh, no, here's the thing that I was going to mention about Joey McGuire. He's actually, I don't know if you call it fortunate, but the fact that Brett Yormark said what he did in Lubbock last week overshadowed something that Joey said that could have brought a lot more heat on him too. And that is talking about the Texas Longhorns and calling them something to the effect of a mediocre athletics department that has really good Olympic sports. I'm paraphrasing that. That's not exactly what he said, but it was something along those lines. And it's like, easy there, Joey. Because that mediocre program has completely dominated you guys this century and really throughout their history as quote-unquote rivals.
Mm-hmm. Congrats on your meat judging championships, Joey. Well done on that.
That's A&M. We don't give Texas Tech a meat judging.
No, Tech has won. I think they won it last year.
Oh, did they? Well, congratulations. You beat your rivals A&M in meat judging.
Yeah, they got a good program at staring at others' meat. So that's very exciting. Congrats to them on being able to judge other people's meat better than the rest of the world.
Up to last year, the only meat judging that Texas Tech had won was Rush Week on Fraternity Row, from what I understand.
Nicely done. Nicely done. Jose asked the question, has the ticket winner been picked? Yes, Glenn Vargas is the name of the winner for our pair of ticket giveaway to see the Longhorns take on the Rice Owls on Saturday. So congrats to Glenn. If for some reason we cannot get a hold of Glenn before Friday, then we will pick a different winner. But once again, we are doing a massive giveaway when we get to 5,000 subscribers. So that's not the only giveaway we are going to be doing on the Texas Sports Unfiltered channel in the near future. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're continuing to spread the love. We appreciate all of the support from all of you guys. Some love for some sponsors. Trey, Audio Visual Consultations. Man, we're about to hit the best time of the sports year with football season, with playoff baseball, with the return of hockey and the NBA. No better time than right now to call AV Consultations.
See those two TVs behind you, BK? That is the work of Audio Visual Consultations. If I were to take the computer into my living room, you would also see the exceptional work of Audio Visual Consultations. Same goes if I were to take you people upstairs into the loft area. We have a video game nook. My son and I just won another FIFA World Cup championship yesterday. Thank you very much, Argentina. And we get to do so on just something that is one of our favorite elements of this house, and that is really good TV and audio setups provided by Audio Visual Consultations. They've been doing it in homes and businesses now for 35 years, and I encourage you, even though may not be in place by the start of college football. Possibility it could be in place by the start of NFL Sunday. First things first, though, you got to go to avconsultations.com, see all the different services they can provide for you, and then give them a call, 512-255-8678 for audio visual consultations.
Shout out to them, and shout out to our friends at Covert Bee Cave. Covert Auto Group, a family-owned group of automotive dealerships that has served the greater Austin area for more than 100 years. And make sure y'all go check out Covert Bee Cave. Not BK, Covert Bee Cave. This place is beautiful. 42 acres in the beautiful Central Texas Hill Country right there in Bee Cave. Covert Bee Cave has 3 new state-of-the-art car dealerships carrying 7 brands: Buick, GMC, Cadillac, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. They also have Covert Ford in Hutto, Covert Ford in Lincoln and Austin. The Coverts are all over the place. Yeah, Covert Bee Cave, they've got something for everyone. They service all makes and all models. They've got 86 service bays throughout their dealership as well. So if you go by there, if you need something done on your car, you're not going to have to wait very long. No, they get it. Your time is important. They realize that. They understand that. They take care of you. Go out and see them in Bee Cave or check them out online at covertbeecave.com. Okay, Trey, let's hear from Quan Cosby, shall we?
Yes.
The legendary lifetime Longhorn and a guy who will be inducted into the Hall of Honor on September 15th, and then he will be honored during the Wyoming game on September 16th. Quan Cosby, a good buddy of all of ours, he joined the show yesterday, and these are a couple of my favorite cuts from Quan. We'll start with this one. Trey, you and I have talked a lot about the wide receiver room. I think every Texas fan is pumped to see what these receivers can do here in 2023. We asked one of the better receivers in the history of Texas football about his expectations for this wide receiver group. Here's what Quan Cosby had to say.
Dude, I laugh because I joke a lot with BJ, Roy, and Sloan, and that was a great group as well. And we argue as athletes do about the receiver rooms, and we throw the numbers out, and then they get pissed off and say, we didn't have that offense. And we go at it. I was like, I caught 90-something balls, and so did Shipley the same year. They're like, that's just crazy. And even, the Wayne McGarry's and Kwame Cavill rooms, we've had some rooms in there, man. And so I say all that to say this. From a production standpoint, time will tell. From a on paper standpoint, maybe the best room we've ever had. And I don't say that lightly, because I respect our rooms. I respect the Roy's and the Kwame's and all the folks who have caught 90 plus 100 balls and are put some skins on the wall. But when I'm saying truly talent for talent, and also I'm not saying 1 through 3, because again we have some good rooms in there 1 through 3, but 1 through 6, these cats, there's no drop off.
Thoughts?
I mean, look, I hope at the end of this year that there is a legitimate argument for most talented and most productive wide receiver rooms in school history. I don't want to anoint them before the season has a chance to play out, but the talent is certainly there. The potential is certainly there. So now it's time to put the hype into action. And in the end, do I think that we'll look back on this receiving core as one of the best in school history? I do. But I also am reluctant to say that out loud because, well, like you, I suffer from UTSD.
Yeah, it's cool that we can even have this discussion, right? Like if we tried to have this discussion at most points over the last 12, 13, 14 years, it would have been ridiculous. But the fact that, yeah, you could make a case that this could be the best on paper wide receiver room the University of Texas has ever had, that's pretty cool. Now, like you said, like Quan said, we got to see it. Right? These guys have to produce on the field. And this is the first time we're going to see all of these guys on the same field at the same time. So some of these guys have done it in high school. Some of these guys have done it at other schools. This is their chance to prove it at the University of Texas. But this doesn't feel too far-fetched to make the claim that, no, this could go down as one of, if not the very best wide receiver groups the University of Texas football program has ever had. And what Quan said at the end, it's 1 through 6. Right? Like, look, Colin Johnson and Devin Duvernay a couple of years ago, that's a damn good one too, right there, right? 2 Sunday players, 2 guys who had great college careers, whatever. Texas has had plenty of good receivers, but when you talk about the depth of this group, right, with the 4 guys who have already done things in college, once again, some of them, A.D. Mitchell, Isaiah Nayor, at other schools, but they've got some skins on the wall in college. Worthy and Whittington obviously have some skins on the wall here. With those 4, plus Jonte Cook, plus Ryan Niblett, plus DeAndre Moore. I mean, the depth that this group has, it's not just the top 1 or 2 guys. There really does feel like there are 5 or 6, maybe even more than that, Sunday receivers on this Texas roster right now, and that's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, Mike asks, who sits the bench in a 5 wide set? And then he gives a list of names. He gives 6 names, and I think based on these 6, it's a pretty simple answer. Xavier Worthy, Jonte Cook, Jordan Whittington, DeAndre Moore, A.D. Mitchell, and Isaiah Nayor. I feel like DeAndre Moore is the odd man out there, but that's certainly no slight on DeAndre Moore. It just speaks to how much talent is in front of him in terms of those other 5 guys.
Yeah, and Texas, for the most part, under Steve Sarkisian, wants to run 11 personnel, which means 1 running back, 1 tight end, 3 receivers on the field. So you're going to have a good rotation going. This won't be, I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, this won't be Tom Herman in 2019 or 2020, just randomly rotating guys on the field. Like, yeah, let's put Kai Money instead of Colin Johnson on the field in a big spot in the 4th quarter of a 1-possession game. It's like, no disrespect to Kai Money, but he's not these guys that Texas has in their wide receiver room right now. Like, there's not going to be, if Xavier Worthy needs a play off, there's not a tremendous drop-off going from him to Isaiah Nayor or to Jonte Cook. Like, you still feel really good about those guys coming in on the sideline to step out there and make some plays to where your offense just doesn't completely fall apart when guys need a rest or, God forbid, somebody goes down with an injury. Like, that's the importance of having really, really good depth. And I'll give Sark some credit, Trey. Like, he realized he tried to do it last offseason with Isaiah Nayor in the portal. Unfortunately, he got hurt. But even with Nayor coming back, he wanted to add more depth to that wide receiver room. He goes out and gets a 2-time national champ in A.D. Mitchell. He realizes that to run his offense the way he wants to run it, he's got to have a luxury of wide receivers, and he does just that.
Yes, he does. What's our next Quan Cosby cut, BK?
Our next Quan Cosby cut. Yes. Why is this year different? Texas has had talent before, although I'd argue they've got more talent here than they've had in a while. But they've had talent. There's no denying that. But obviously the results, the UTSD that you talked about, it's a real thing, and it should be a real thing considering some of the struggles that we've had to undergo as fans in recent years. Here's Quan talking a little bit about the culture and what is different about this year's team than what we've seen in the recent past.
These guys really, truly want to win. They're not shy to talk about winning championships. I mean, they said it, and maybe behind the scenes and all of that. But I just didn't always see that level of worth ethic. And I think Vince went to a scrimmage the other day, and I think Worthy kind of walked off the field and dropped his helmet, and Vince got on his butt about that. And I think there was a time where, not that it was a level of disrespect, but they just didn't honor that interaction. And Worthy was like, boom, let me pick this up. You're right. That championship level culture matters. Picking up the helmet, those little things. By the way, if you get used to and make that your norm, you won't tighten up as much in the fourth quarter. You're ready for it because the little things is what it's about. I mean, at that moment when the clock is running down, that's go time, not piss down your leg time. Right. And that's the culture that I feel is developing slowly but surely. Again, I'm not saying we're going to go win a natty, and that'd be pretty damn sweet. But I am saying they're going to give this Big 12 a run for its money. And culturally, I believe it now. I was hopeful before, but what I saw in that scrimmage, what I see culturally through Sark, the coaching staff, and all the above, and they're different than ours. And it takes me honestly, it took me a second and a conversation with Huff to kind of respect that. But there's reason to believe that it's just different over there, and it's certainly easy to see.
So you can only put so much stock in what you're seeing at a scrimmage because it is the Longhorns versus the Longhorns. And unfortunately, the two most recent examples we have of this Texas football program is a team that unfortunately, to put it in Quan's words, is doing more pissing down its leg than actually stepping up and making it happen in crucial situations, oftentimes when they have a lead. So am I in the category of people that thinks we may see something different this year? I most definitely am, but we need to see it, and we need to see it early in the season too. That doesn't necessarily mean beating Alabama, although obviously that would be phenomenal, but to stay close in that game, to take care of business against Rice and Wyoming, and then also to figure out a way to take care of business against a Baylor team that I do believe will be improved this year in Waco, and that crowd does have the ability to make a difference. If you can get past those early season tests, then I think that'll go a long ways in helping to determine what this program is able to do the rest of the way.
I'm with you. And Trey, our next guest is in our waiting room. And for old time's sake, I think he just disappeared. Okay, now he's back. For old time's sake, I think it's only fair if you bring this guy on.
It is extremely fitting that the first guest on the latest iteration of Midday with Trey and BK is a guy that we talk to more than anyone else on the old radio show other than ourselves, BK. It is a guy who is majorly responsible for the greatness at Inside Texas, InsideTexas.com. You can also check out his analysis on the On Texas Football YouTube channel. It is the great Justin Wells. Whoa, sporting shades. Justin, what the heck, man? How we doing today?
I'm doing blessed, guys. Man, it's so good to see you guys. I don't think y'all understand, man. This has been too dang long, man. This feels like a family reunion that should have happened years ago. BK!
Come on, man.
Trey's mug on the regular. It's you, man. I haven't seen you in forever, brother. Man, y'all look good together.
Oh, man, we're just trying to look half as good as you are, Jay Wells, and it's good to see you, my man. And that's one of the reasons why I'm most excited about being on this beat again, is getting the chance to chop it up with you, my friend. Oh, man, and I love the shades. You think the future's pretty bright for Texas football? Is that why you're rocking those?
BK and I, we're on the same wave path, man. That's the way that works. That's exactly what I was going with. Rubble tried to wear them at first, but I had to get them from him. Yeah, listen, I'm getting a lot of texts from a lot of family and a lot of friends. You know, game week, it's here, fellas. The off season is over. Thank God. We got game week. I'm getting so many messages. Is the hype real? Is Texas really going to be this good? Is the roster that stacked? And I have to say yes. After 13 years of saying, man, I don't know, it could go this way, house of cards that way, I have to tell them the truth. This roster's stacked. This team is confident. This coaching staff is very confident. And I think they're really eager to hit someone.
I agree with that, Justin. And we share that optimism, obviously. Is there either a spot on the roster or a position group that has you most optimistic right now?
Yes. I'll give you one on each side of the ball. The wide receiver room improved greatly in the offseason. Not just the fact that you get Xavier Worthy healthy after a broken hand last year, Jordan Whittington coming back, the elder statesman of the group. Adonai Mitchell is on. Adonai Mitchell's on this roster now. And let me tell you, he has been a difference maker since he arrived. He is that component that they thought they had last year in Isaiah Nayor. I'm telling you, and you and I have talked about this, Nayor's injury was the baddest beat on this team last year. It changed what they could do on offense. It at least cost them a few wins. And they replaced that with Mitchell in this offseason, not to mention Nayor's healthy now. And so he's getting back into the reps. He's getting back into the swing of it. So this running back room this wide receiver room looks unbelievable, not to mention Ajante Cook, one of the best freshmen in the country, DeAndre Moore, who already has a college-ready body, and Ryan Niblett, who might be the fastest of all of them. So I like the wide receiver room on offense. On defense, the D-line would be the easy one because it's filled with NFL guys, experienced guys, youth, veterans, kind of a nice mixture, but it's the secondary. I'm telling you guys, Terrence Brooks is a future All-Pro in the NFL. He is the most talented on this roster, and that's saying something because Ryan Watts hits like a linebacker. Manny Muhammad does not play like a freshman and will not play like a freshman. That guy's going to be hard to keep off the field. Gavin Holmes is the fastest player on that defensive side of the ball. And that you're talking about the 3 or 4 corner in that spot, former Wake Forest all ACC guy that transferred in the spring. And then Jaron Thompson and Jalen Catalon, you guys know what you're getting in Jaron, the quarterback of the defense, always going to be in the right position, always going to bring hat, always has the best attitude. But when they took the green jersey off Jalen Catalon in the second scrimmage, it got real. Jalen Catalon will hunt you. He is going to hurt you, and he's going to do it consistently until the end of the game. And so the secondary, I want to see Jalen Catalon. You guys, we were talking during the Catalon recruitment years ago about in the class of 19. We had talked about it, and Texas was in second place, and they were so close, and he wanted to go to Austin so bad. And if Tom Herman wasn't the head coach, Jalen Catalon would have gone to Austin this whole time. But nevertheless, he's home now. He's playing really well. He's healthy. I'm sorry, I ranted a little bit. I had to go on both sides of the ball. There's too much value, too much excitement, guys.
I just hope Jalen Catalon doesn't hurt himself. I know he's trying to hurt everybody else. That's the issue. You guys have been all over it, man. Jalen Catalon's an all-world talent. We just got to keep him on the field this year.
Yes,
Jay Wells, got to ask you about the quarterback, man. Quinn Ewers, at times last year, he looked like he had a chance to be something special. At times last year, Texas fans were throwing things at their TV because he just couldn't get out of his own way. What progression have you seen from Quinn Ewers, and what's your confidence level in him taking a big step towards more consistency here in 2023?
People, that's usually the first question. Is Quinn Ewers going to be better? And it's one of those things, he's going to be better by default. He's done we rush these quarterbacks, guys. We rush them so much. They get into college. We see freshmen starting. And this never happened back in the day. We get to the NFL, we see rookies starting. That never happened back in the day. You had to be on the roster 3 or 4 years before you sniffed the field. So we're in this age of urgency. So everybody wants everybody to be good right now. Well, guess what? Quinn Ewers hadn't played football in 2 years till last year. And there was so much goodness up to that point, but you slip. You get rusty. You're not always the best version of yourself. And even though he flashed last year, even though he had some fantastic games, Oklahoma, notably, he slung the pill everywhere in the Alamo Bowl against Washington. That's the Quinn Ewers we're going to see. This kid lost weight, went on a strategic diet, started the core workout. You know, I don't know if he went Atkins or not, but I'll check. All he did was shave down his body fat 5 or 6%. He's focused. He removed the mullet. He admitted it's kind of hot. 100-degree heat index with that helmet on. Maybe you need to go business in the front, business in the back, because you're in a contract year, because we know Quinn Ewers is likely going in the first round of the 2024 NFL draft. I think Ewers has all the toys and all the confidence to have a great year. You return the entire starting line. You have great a really strong backfield that I think will be built up over the season. We'll see more progress there. You gave him some great receivers, and then you've got returning all Big 12 tight end Jatavian Sanders, who's also likely going to be drafted in 2024. Quinn Ewers is going to be better by default. Everything around him is better. He's better, and I can't wait to see him strap it on.
Justin, let's talk a little bit more about that running back room, because you guys reported a couple of days ago that there's a good chance we see CJ Baxter starting at running back for the Longhorns this Saturday against Rice.
Yes, sir.
Which is maybe a bit of a pleasant surprise because he's picked things up quickly, put on the right sort of weight in the offseason. But it does make me wonder if Jonathan Brooks is 100% right now, because we've heard little bits and pieces about him during fall practice. But did that surprise you to initially hear that information that CJ Baxter may in fact be the starter this weekend?
A little bit. Now, I've been on record as saying I feel like Cedric Baxter is going to be the starting running back at Texas by midseason or November at the latest.
Okay.
And it reminds me of this group reminds me of the 2001 team. There are a lot of similarities. And this is the Benson freshman year, 2001. I see a lot of Benson and Baxter. And remember, it took Mac Brown losing in the Cotton Bowl to OU before he let Benson play. And then the next week in Stillwater, Benson started and didn't come off the field for 3.5 years.
No.
And so I thought that's kind of the trend line I was looking for Baxter. You know, get you some run, but Jonathan Brooks was kind of one of, not so much the incumbent, but he'd been there a few years, and they know the value that he brings. Baxter is the biggest back in that room. He is the baddest back in that room. 218, 219, 220 pounds as a true freshman out of Orlando. It was only a matter of time. Listen, Texas loses Bijan Robinson and Rashawn Johnson. Those are the two biggest that they needed to replace. Those are the two guys. I think we'll see. I don't think the starting thing is going to be a factor, Trey. I think it'll be in the aggregate. We're going to see Jonathan Brooks get his carries. We're going to see CJ get his carries. You're going to see Keelan Robinson have a package as well. So I think the running back room is going to kind of straighten itself out.
So just to be clear, Jonathan Brooks, it seems like he's 100% in practices. He doesn't seem like he's still building back up to that. This is more a matter of Baxter doing what is asked of him and just showing that gradual improvement each and every day. Absolutely.
We have not heard of any lingering injuries from his what was it? I believe it was hernia, I believe. From the Alamo Bowl back in December. We haven't heard of any lingering deals. I know they were real cautious with him in the spring, but like I said, Cedric Baxter just looks different than the other running backs. It's kind of hard. It's like when you look at the offensive line and you see Kelvin Banks and then Cameron Williams and then Neto Omeozulu, and some of these guys just look different than the other ones.
Yeah. Justin Wells of Inside Texas joining us here on Trey and BK. Jay Wells, I won't ask you for a full breakdown of Rice. I'm not going to bore you, and I'm not going to bore.
God. I don't even know what to bore
our audience as well. I will ask you, what do you want to see, and what are you expecting to see from this Texas team going up against the Owls this weekend?
I'd like to see a clean game, low on the penalties, no injuries. Lots of freshmen on the field in the fourth quarter and some backup quarterback stuff. I want to see how this shakes out because, guys, the starting quarterback is solidified. The backup quarterback is where it gets nice and tasty. And so I want to see those guys out on the field. I want to see who's the first one off the bench for that backup quarterback job if they get that big lead. I want to see JT Daniels leave an offer in Austin. And it's not personal. It's not personal. I was actually at the other two games. I remember his freshman year, USC, and he actually played a pretty good game that day. But it was definitely Texas night. And so against Rice, just a clean game, no injuries. Get in, get out, quick post game stories, so we can start watching some of these other games. LSU, Florida State. I'm curious to see what TCU and Colorado are doing. Oregon, Texas Tech. Let's get through Rice, slice them up, boil them, throw them with some beans and enchiladas, and let's head in and start prepping for Bama.
On the defensive side of the ball, Justin, I feel like if there is a question on defense, it has to do with a couple of spots. One is that edge rusher spot, which hopefully Ethan Burke will do a nice job of filling in, at least on first and second downs. Perhaps we see Anthony Hill on third downs. But is David Binda the guy at that other inside linebacker spot next to Jalen Ford? And what do you expect out of Binda on Saturday, if so?
He is right now. And I think you're going to see, you're going to see plenty of Binda on Saturday. He is a solid guy. He's been through the program for years now. The question is going to be, how much are we going to see of the younger guys? You're going to see more Binda for the first 2 weeks naturally, just because Mo Blackwell is going to be out. So Binda's going to have to play. You're going to see a little bit more of Anthony Hill than I think we expected. Maybe even more Leona LaFau as well. He's backing up Jalen Ford. But Binda, I think, has got a pretty good hold on it. What's going to be interesting is going to be how many different positions Anthony Hill plays. Because we know he's going to play some will. We know there's a package for him at edge. He may be the most natural pass rusher in the program. Ethan Burke, I'm curious to kind of see what he's going to do. And I think each piece is going to complement the other. And so you don't have to have an all-star in that Binda spot. You just have to have a veteran that knows the gaps and knows his assignments and knows his role. And I think that's what you're going to get. You lose Blackwell for a couple of weeks, and trust me, that's not it. That hurts. That's the twitchy linebacker. That's your ultra athletic, intense, suddenness type guy. So Binda's going to have to come in there and clean some of that up. But I think you're going to see more Anthony Hill than anything. And I went on record. Manny Muhammad and Anthony Hill are going to be really difficult to keep off the field in 2023. And like I said, when I compare it to 2001, that freshman linebacker in 2001, what was his name? Is that Derek Johnson? I'm telling you, there's a lot of similarities to that year and this year.
Man, that is awesome. Last thing for me, Jay Wells. Look, I'm hearing too many Texas fans say, oh, it's a successful season if we get to the Big 12 championship game. To me, it feels like they got to win the Big 12. It almost has nothing to do with the fact that this is the Longhorns' last year in the conference. It's just this team is too talented, too experienced, and there are so many other questions across the Big 12. For me, it's like, obviously you get to Arlington, you give yourself a chance. But for me, it'd be a disappointment if Texas doesn't win this conference here in 2023. Where are you at with those expectations?
That's the beauty of our jobs in sports. They have expectations. And in the past, we will all admit, often they were too high. And that's been, that's the standard that the Lost Dodds and even before him, Matt Brown, all those guys did. But they have to get to Arlington. They have to. This roster's too good. The schedule lines up for them in really a positive way. I don't think they're going to go undefeated. I don't think that's happening. I think there's too many potholes. But they're going to have to get to Arlington. Like it will be a letdown if they don't. And the beauty of this group is if they'll embrace the hate, if they will take each game, because listen, they only thought they had a target on their back for the last 20, 30, 40 years. People are licking their chops. I had a buddy of mine that coaches at Oklahoma State, and they had one of their big donors came through the other day, and he's talking about, all these different things. And he said, the only thing I want to know is, are you going to beat Texas and OU in your final year in the Big 12? Because 10 years from now, your family, that's all they're going to ask. They're not going to ask you what you did this season. They're not going to ask you what bowl you went to. They're going to ask you, did you beat Texas and Oklahoma in the last year in the Big 12? Now, granted, OSU doesn't play the Horns this year, but the message is program to program. Embrace the hate and go week to week. And if they do that, I think they're going to be just fine. They're going to be in Arlington for the Big 12 championship. They're going to have to play somebody probably different. I think Kansas State is probably my team right now, even though I just don't know how they're going to replace Deuce Vaughn. I just love Chris Kleiman, and I love what they're doing. TCU is always going to be around the mix. Texas Tech is kind of a happy pick right now because Joey McGuire likes to say a lot of stuff. And so at the end of the day, you know, I think it's going to be Brett Yormark handing that trophy to Steve Sarkisian. I think Sark took the high road. I think he has handled this whole thing with the Big 12 and the commissioners with the utmost class. I think CDC has as well. And I'm telling you, if they weren't motivated to get to Arlington before now, tell them everybody in the world hates them and then have their commissioner admit it in public. I think that's only going to entrust these guys anymore. I think this is only going to make them closer. I know the expectations are high, guys, but they should be. This Texas bunch is good.
All right, 2 more quickies from you, Justin. First, Alabama game aside, because that is the toughest game on the schedule right now. It is in Tuscaloosa after all. What is the second toughest game on the schedule in your opinion?
I was going to say, before they had too much fun gambling, I was going to say the trap game in Iowa State and Ames, because this team only leaves the state twice. And before, they had an addiction to FanDuel in the program. I was kind of circling that game in November because, Ames can be crazy. But now I don't even know if they're going to field the team. And so that's such a good question. I like that they get Tech last. I really do. I liked it because last year Tech only had to get, they've had to face the backup quarterback, and they got Texas early. And so I think that bodes well. Oklahoma's going to be better naturally. They have to be. They've improved. That's for sure. Kansas. I've been laughed at. I've been made fun of. Kansas is better than people think. Jalen Daniels is an outstanding quarterback. If he's healthy, I think they have a completely different season last year. I think Lance Leopold is doing a great job in Lawrence. Kansas is one I'm watching as well. It's going to be one of them, Trey, BK. It's going to be one of them. I just don't know when.
All right, and last question now. I would regret not asking you a little something on recruiting before we bid you adieu. What's happening in the world of recruiting for the Longhorns right now? Obviously, this is a home game this weekend. So are there any official visitors for this weekend's game and anything else on the horizon that Longhorn fans need to know about?
Well, for the game, no official visitors, but we've actually just posted at InsideTexas.com and another updated visitor list. Jabari Antoine, big-time corner out of the New Iberia, actually at the same high school from Derek Williams. He's going to be there. He visited in the offseason. He's a really nice-looking corner. He's going to be on campus. Wardell Mack, who is a priority corner out of Marrero on the East Bank of New Orleans, John Ehret High School. He's committed to Florida, but he's going to be on campus for the Rice game. And so Texas is still in the mix with him. Terry Joseph's doing a great job there, kind of chipping away. You're not going to see as many big names this weekend. You're going to see big names weekend after next, because I think Texas is planning on going to Tuscaloosa, taking care of business, and riding that wave of momentum week 3 when they host Wyoming. That's when number 5 edge in the country, Danny Okoye out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, is going to be on campus. On 3, industry ranking 5-star Ryan Wingo, wide receiver, is going to be on campus. That's the weekend that's starting to build up. And I think that's been strategic. I think Sark's thinking, guys, if we go into Bama and do what we need to do, we need to hit that momentum quick whenever we get back home. And so that's going to be kind of your weekend. As for recruiting overall, I know that you got people watching right now, listening, wondering, Dominic McKinley, what's the latest on Dominic McKinley, the big 6'5", 280-pound on 3 industry 5-star defensive lineman out of Louisiana, the Lafayette native. Listen, Texas is swinging. They're throwing hands right now. They were in a great position a couple weeks ago. Texas A&M and Oklahoma have closed that gap, and now it is a brawl. And so he's announcing on September 1st. You can check that out at InsideTexas.com. I'm not as confident as I was in my RPM a couple days ago, but I have faith in this staff that, I'm going to see it through. If I'm wrong, then I'm going to be wrong, but I'm going to see it through because I know Texas likes this kid. And anytime you're in the mix for the number one defensive lineman in Louisiana, that's a plus. That's a positive. And so McKinley's probably the news everybody wants. And right now, I think Texas has their hands full with OU and the Aggies.
Let us know the GoFundMe so we can do whatever we can do to get him on campus, Justin. We'll get all of our listeners and viewers to support and make sure that happens.
I had a buddy call me this week. He was driving through Lafayette to take his boss's Bentley to Palm Springs. And he needed some food recreation. So it's food recommendations. Prejeans. 100% of the time, you got to hit Prejeans. Crawfish enchiladas, they will change your life.
Whoa.
And I told him to go ahead and drop that car off with McKinley on his way. and I'd make sure everything was, taken care of, all in jest, all in fun. But yeah, McKinley's the big guy, the big fish on the hook, and we'll find out September 1st.
Oh, man. Jay Wells, you're the man, brother. Great catching up. Hopefully this is far from the last time we get to talk to you on this channel. Love having you on, my brother. Enjoy the game this weekend. Enjoy all the games this weekend, and we'll catch up soon.
For anybody that knows, these two are the originators of Nothing But Love, guys.
Nothing but love. Back to you, Jay Wells. Thank you very much. There he goes. The great Justin Wells. Check out his work at InsideTexas.com. Of course, follow him on Twitter at JustinWells2424. Awesome conversation and good to catch up, Trey, with one of our favorites. Like you said, very fitting that Jay Wells was our first guest for football season here on Trey and BK.
Yeah, and I think for the time being, he's probably going to be the only guest that we're speaking with for football. But I'm okay with that. If there's one person I could pick on this planet, maybe other than like Ricky Williams, to have on the show weekly, it would be Justin Wells, no question.
Yeah, Ricky Williams doesn't want any part of you. We know that. He's still got you blocked on Twitter, so he's not coming on your show either.
Come on, Alon. You were supposed to disable the block feature. I want to be able to follow Rick the Laureate again. I want to be able to like and retweet all the cool, interesting, smart stuff that he's typing about.
You just call him Alon?
I did.
Yeah.
Elon?
Is he Israeli? Alon? Yeah, Elon.
Elon.
There it is. There it is. All right. Some love to some sponsors. We don't have time for where we at in society today. I think you people understand. That was great conversation with Justin Wells. Trey, real quick, relax the back in that beautiful chair that you're sitting in.
That's right. This chair that you see behind me that blends in with that dark brown bookshelf in the far background, that is a relax the back chair. It was won by my brother at the Mullet Open a couple Mullet Opens ago. Bought it off of him for $200. Got it for a discount because this chair usually goes for quite a bit more than that. Some of the best $200 that I have ever spent. Every time I'm at home, I seek out this chair. That's because it's the most comfortable seat in the house. Now I'm considering getting a desk that will elevate to allow me to stand at times while doing this show. Guess where I'm going? RelaxTheBack.com to find that now too. They've got a variety of options like they do with pretty much everything that they offer up to try and meet the price point that you are able to afford. Find out for yourself. If you've got a broken body like I do, go to RelaxTheBack.com.
Absolutely. Thanks to them. Thanks to our friends at Altstadt Beer as well. If you need a great beer for football season, of course you do, make that beer Altstadt Beer for your tailgates, for your watch parties. If you're just enjoying the games at home on your couch, make sure you've got an ice cold Altstat, a couple of Altstats with you at all times. My fridge is stocked with it for football season. Hopefully yours is too. It's Altstat Beer, no impurities, no regrets. And many thanks to 7-Eleven, to Woods Comfort Systems, to Last Stand Hats, to Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment, and to Brain Vault and Dr. Greg Eckert as well. We appreciate all of them for their continued support of Texas Sports Unfiltered. And we appreciate y'all appreciating them and showing love to our great sponsors because we know they love it and we love it too. All of our sponsors are great friends of all of ours and they all do great work. So make sure you reach out to them to help improve your quality of life. And one more shout out to our friends at Syntex Tickets. A couple of people have commented asking who won the Texas Rice tickets that we gave away this morning. Glenn Vargas. Congratulations to Glenn, our winner for the contest. Glenn, I will reach out to you. We will get in contact and I will let you know how you can get those tickets. But how about this, Trey? The comment from Glenn that Look, it was random. It's just so fitting that this is the one that got the win. Randomize D's nuts. Y'all are the man. Not the men. Y'all are the man. I don't know how that works, but randomize D's nuts. Trey, great show, my friend.
Great show to you, my friends.
Absolutely. All right, Chip and Zay coming up in a separate studio. So leave us, go to them. They're on from 1 to 3. They've got a great show on tap. Trey and I will be back tomorrow at 12 o'clock. Until then, y'all stay safe. Y'all stay healthy. And hook 'em.